Hi, my name is Mattia Murray, and welcome to The Longer Road. You are on the longer road if you have multiple intersectional identities that are often marginalized. You've had to work harder to get to the starting line, and you might feel behind. I'm here to provide hope, support, and practical tips, and to let you know that you're not alone. This episode is titled, Your Body is Not a Vending Machine, by which I mean that I personally am very annoyed that I can't just input self-care and have all the productivity I want come out of my body. Even if you don't have any disabilities, your body is still a complex system affected by many factors out of your control, and that can be frustrating. Story time. A little over a week ago, I went to my first queer soccer game of the season. Last year, I did this. I played all summer. They're really chill games. People are not super competitive. We're not, doing big flashy moves, and it's on a small field, so it's not as much running. So I actually did pretty well last year. And when I went this last week, this was going to be literally my first time running this year, because running is not a thing that I usually do. It's usually not a great activity for my wobbly joints. I was going off the field a bit to retrieve a rogue ball, and I stepped on some cement in my cleats and just absolutely fell down pretty hard onto my outstretched elbow. So I kind of caught myself with my elbow. I could feel that my shoulder had popped out of the socket a bit, but I couldn't yet tell how much. So I managed to roll onto my back, and when I tried to move it, I had almost no control over my arm, so I figured it was dislocated. And I do know, because I've dislocated a bunch, that one important thing is to stay calm and just relax as much as possible so you can get it back in, because the muscles around it start to spasm, and that can make it harder to get it back in. So I was laying there on my back, taking kind of intense deep breaths, just trying to get my body, to stay in the moment. And the people around me were getting more and more worried, I think, because I wasn't really responding much. And so I asked people to help me sit up, because I knew I only know how to get my shoulder back in sitting up. And there was one person there who I already had thought seemed autistic, who asked if I knew what to do. And that was a little bit calming. Hypermobility and Ehlers-Danlos are very common in autistic people, so this person probably knew what was going on if they're on the spectrum. After a few more minutes of breathing and a couple tries, I managed to pop my shoulder back into the socket, which made someone scream, which was kind of fun. That was my little highlight. And then someone gave me a ride home, and since then I've been doing all the things I'm supposed to do after a dislocation. Last time I fully dislocated the same shoulder, I also sprained it at the same time. So it's actually healing a lot faster this time. And my partner has been kind of horrified at some of the things I've been saying, like the way I've been talking about it, because I mean it when I say things like, this really isn't that bad because it only hurts when I move. To me, that's actually way better than chronic pain that hurts when I'm just trying to relax. After this particular injury, most people in my life wanted me to go to the doctor, including, the people at soccer were asking if I needed an ambulance. But because I have Ehlers-Danlos and I know that there's not really much they can do in the ER besides put it in an orthopedic cast, I didn't want to do that, because if the muscles are trying to pull the joint back out of the socket, it just keeps pulling inside the cast, which can be very painful. And I also know that because I'm very, very hypermobile, I'm actually very unlikely to have torn anything. Since it wasn't sprained, I could tell it wasn't sprained. But I will get it checked out and go to the doctor if I notice any continued weakness or soreness that could indicate a tear. But it's actually healing faster, maybe even the fastest of any big dislocation that I've had. So I'm talking about it in fairly positive terms, which the people around me are, again, sort of surprised by. But I'm just like, this is not bad compared to a lot of other injuries I've had. I've been getting pretty consistent sprains and injuries since I was like 7 because of my joints. And where I'm going with this story is that even though my shoulder's doing really well, my body is not a vending machine. I can't just give my body sleep, food, movement, and assume that it's going to be able to do certain things without injury. My body injures easily, and that is built in. I know high impact stuff is not a good option for my body, But I also really wanted to play soccer, and I'm very accustomed to just avoiding activities that I know could injure me, and I can only do that so much of the time. No amount of care of my body is going to make me not hypermobile, and that's physically limiting in certain ways. Although strength training has helped a lot, and being on testosterone and building more muscle around my joints has also helped a lot. Another way that my body is not a vending machine is that pain is really exhausting. Obviously, I've been resting more, but I still had stuff I needed to get done this week, and I did travel last weekend for work to go to an event, and my brain has been really tired, and my body has been really tired because I'm having to think harder about small movements to avoid tweaking my shoulder. And the brain is even less of a vending machine in my experience. You can do all the things that help and still have symptoms you don't want. The state of research, we still understand so little about the physicality of the brain and the actual mechanisms in the brain. So when we try to treat the brain for anything or affect the brain, it still kind of feels like we're throwing spaghetti at the wall. Obviously, none of this is to imply that you shouldn't take care of yourself. There are many benefits to self-care, but also we're animals that naturally gravitate towards short-term rewards, especially if you have ADHD or complex PTSD. And it does not feed that reward circuit in the same way if you do self-care and don't get an immediate reward. So unfortunately, we kind of all have to come up with our own ways of sticking with things that feel good. And that's one reason I love developing habits instead of trying to do things on willpower. But even building habits takes work, right? And you have to be in an okay state to be able to get your brain to do the habit in the first place. When I was talking about this idea, I think I said slot machine instead of vending machine, and somebody pointed out that I was talking about my body in using the term slot machine. That actually makes sense because with disability, it kind of feels like a gamble when you try something or are putting input in and seeing what'll come out. And I actually really, really love that imagery because with a vending machine, if I put in my money and it doesn't give me my snack, I'm mad, right? I paid for it. I'm like, where's my thing? I want this immediate benefit right now. But with a slot machine, it's like, well, this is what a slot machine does. I keep putting money in, and if I keep playing, maybe I will get something later. I've never actually played a slot machine, but it does look fun in movies. This analogy of the slot machine is working so much better for me right now, and you're welcome to borrow it if that makes sense for your body. This is a short episode because I'm tired. Please be gentle with yourself if you're having a hard time. A couple things that are just really useful for all kinds of problems are sunshine and dirt. So if you get a chance to get outside or even just look out the window or, be with a loved one, anything that makes you feel better, just remember that you cannot assume that your body or your brain is going to act like a vending machine because that's just not how most bodies work. And if you like the slot machine idea, go for it. I'm kind of enjoying that and playing with that right now for myself. Take care, and I hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening. If you know someone who would be helped by this podcast, please share it with them. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions at mattia@mattiamurray.com. That's MATTIA at MATTIAMAUREE.com. Thank you.